This video is sponsored by americascardroom.com. Use the code POKERGUYS to get a 100% deposit bonus up to $1,000.
Check out the High Five Tournament Series starting June 8th. There's almost $1 million in guarantees.
Worth playing, and US players are welcome.
Yep, so use the code and get on in there.
Poker guys. The hand we're going to show you today features Tom Dwan just kind of going nuts and putting a ton of money in the pot, as we see very often in televised poker. And I got to tell you, it's great to watch because you never know what's going to happen with Tom at the table.
For sure. Now, he is playing a heads-up cash game match called the Tom Dwan $1 Million Challenge against a high-stakes amateur named Sammy George. And they bought in both for a lot of money. The effective stacks now are what?
440K or something like that?
Yeah, and the blinds are 500 to 1,000, so there's 440 blinds effective. So there's a lot of money going on here.
Right. This hand was suggested by a lot of people on Twitter.
Check it all out
on your screen, and it's because it's such a great hand. And then it was voted on by our patrons on Patreon. If you want to support the breakdown, check out Patreon by clicking somewhere around there.
Up, and if you have a suggestion for the breakdown, get on Twitter and send us a YouTube link along with the hand.
Raise up to 6,000.
Tom opens to 6,000 here, double the raise he's been making from the button previously, with 7 deuce.
That's highly unusual.
I had to do 7 again. I wanted to just take it down.
You don't have to do 7.
Tom announces his hand, and Sammy doesn't believe him.
You don't have to do 7.
It's funny, I mean, what would you make it 6x with? Obviously, he's trying to take the...
Either 7 deuce or a very strong hand trying to look like 7 deuce, I think.
10,000.
How much?
He's bet nearly the size of the pot, and Sammy calls here. Tom should pretty much be done with this at this stage, right? I mean...
Well, it's hard to say.
Raise.
Oh, Sammy has raised it here.
27.
A little check raise to only 27,000. You can really see how that big bet pre-flop compounds on itself to build a gigantic pot. The pot had only been 6 going into the flop. Maybe Tom bets 5 and Sammy raises to 15, but now we're building a huge pot here.
Ike Haxton is absolutely right. We are building a huge pot here in this heads-up cash game. This is real cash, by the way. And we're building this pot with Tom Dwan having 7 high. To figure out how we got here, we have to go back to pre-flop to truly understand how did it get this big so fast and why is this happening?
It starts, of course, with Dwan making 6x on the button. He's doing this because he has 7 deuce, and they're, as you know, playing the 7 deuce game. And he's just trying to win the blinds plus that $10,000 sweetener. But Sammy's got a little too good of a hand to fold.
Yeah, ace high is really never a fold against Tom Dwan, especially when the 7 deuce game is on.
And you're this deep?
Even though Tom tells him the truth, you have to listen pretty closely, but listen to Tom here.
I had to do 7 again. I wanted to just take it down.
You don't have to do 7.
Tom announces his hand, and Sammy doesn't believe him.
That's pretty interesting that he's just telling the truth. He's like, oh, just trying to win the 10K with 7 deuce. And Sammy doesn't believe him. It's kind of like the Jamie Gold thing where Jamie Gold always told the truth and nobody ever believed him.
Boy, Sammy, I mean, listen to Sammy right here. He absolutely doesn't believe him at all.
You don't have to do 7.
Tom announces his hand, and Sammy doesn't believe him.
You don't have to do 7.
Sort of funny.
Yeah.
It would be in my head the whole time as soon as Tom said that, but...
Right, and the 7 deuce game is so interesting because obviously it creates this dynamic where Tom's going to make it such an insane and unreasonable amount pre-flop here that he would never really do in any other scenario. And it makes it really cool because he becomes, as I kind of mentioned, instantly polarized.
Yep, right. Like he usually is going to have a really big hand, like 10s, jacks, ace king, aces, things like that, or the 7 deuce.
Right, and of course, there's not that many 7 deuces compared to all of the big hands he might do it with.
That's right.
Which is pretty cool. Now we get to the flop, and Sammy obviously loves this flop.
I mean, it's an incredible flop heads up against the maniac that is Durr, right?
So the check raise makes sense. You're trying to get a lot of value out of this guy because Tom Dwan is, as Jonathan just said, a maniac, and he's likely to continue in the hand with a lot of holdings. Sammy's probably not thinking that Tom's going to be continuing with this holding.
Well, I mean, in fairness, if Tom had 7 deuce, he's always going to continue, right? So,
well, sometimes he may give up, but that's a hand he's likely to continue with.
He's 100% on any ace high board. He's going to take a shot, especially with 7 deuce. The pot isn't that big yet. It's only got 12,000, but if Tom wins that pot plus the extra 10K sweetener for having 7 deuce, bam, $22,000.
That's a lot of equity.
Pretty sweet.
That doubles
right?
his equity.
So
with
when
the
he bets 10,000, he's actually not betting 10 to win 12. He's betting 10 to win 22.
Yeah, it
pretty
definitely
awesome.
adds a lot. Tom not folding is weird.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is why Tom Dwan is one of the greatest people to watch on TV play poker.
Right.
Because he does stuff like this on a pretty frequent basis. He's a guy who constantly confounds his opponents and does stuff that seems reckless, but it's really cool and has a lot of thought behind it.
I mean, this is one of those don't try this at home kind of plays.
Obviously.
Like, mostly this is just going to get you in huge trouble. But Tom knows his customer. We think he's pretty sure that if he calls here, he's going to be able to read Sammy very, very well. We assume Tom's looking for a lot of scare cards that he's going to bluff on the turn or river, were they to come. He does have the deuce of hearts, which maybe once in a blue moon is good if a heart
maybe
comes.
that's a little bit of a release valve.
But
right
I assume if a heart comes, Tom's going to rep a much bigger heart than the deuce of hearts and actually try and win the pot as a bluff.
And he believes that he's going to figure it out better than Sammy based on how it goes down. Tom does, of course, have position on Sammy, and that will help. But Tom's thinking some of the time Sammy has a big heart himself, and Sammy's going to tell me that if a heart comes, and if a heart comes, Sammy's also going to tell me that he doesn't have it, and I'm going to be able to win then.
Right, so since he can read this guy so well, he's in position, they're super deep, and there's the 10K sweetener, can't fold.
Don't try it at home, though.
I mean, really, you should fold.
Tom could be in
Easily
big
still
trouble.
be behind. I wonder if he's reading something into that raise size by Sammy. It reminds me a little bit of the Queen-Jack hand, where Sammy had Queen-Jack and Tom had 7-5 on Queen-6-3, and Sammy made a little check raise, and then Tom ended up bluffing him out of the pot. I wonder if something similar might be going on here, if Tom thinks Sammy has made that check raise with a medium-strength hand that he might not be willing to get all his chips in with.
That's a big bet.
It is.
48,000.
That's
48.
that's a crazy bet. I mean, like, Dirk could. He must think he's drawing dead right now, Dirk.
He probably thinks he's got a shot at the heart being live, but a whole lot of the time, yeah, he'll be drawing dead to a small or medium flush or something like top or second pair with a big heart.
Time to give up.
He's come this far. It's got to be tempting to try to win that 162,000 in the middle, one way or another.
I mean, surely Sammy's checked the call here, and Durr knows it.
Sammy has a stronger hand than I think Tom would expect.
So you're thinking maybe he's got something like just a dry king of hearts, and he can take him off it?
Or something like King Jack with the King of Hearts, King 10 with the King of Hearts for a gut shot as well.
Come on.
No!
Wow! That is a gigantic bet.
No way.
More than double the pot. What is Sammy going to do here? This is making things awfully tough on him.
He's gotta be scared that Sammy's gonna call.
Yeah. Sammy looks like he's going to call. He looks like he's...
This is the pot to get him even.
Yeah, Sammy calls here and he's ahead. Tom will have only about 120,000 left in front of him. Sammy will be up 130.
Just a moment.
Looks like Sammy might be getting ready to get rid of those cards.
Wow.
Oh, you can't fold, Sammy! There it goes. And Tom will table the 7-2 to collect an additional 10,000.
But
Ouch.
This is one of those like heart in your hand, you can't believe it moments. So horrible to feel,
Right.
to be Sammy George right there. It's like the deep, deep wells of sadness
You guys
and pain.
all saw Tom Dwan show the 7 deuce after the
He
bluff.
had to, though.
He had to collect his $10,000. It's
mean-
not his fault, but it's certainly not going to feel very good to Sammy for that to happen.
Absolutely not. Now, to figure out why Tom is able to make this play and have it work, We have to go back to the turn.
Right.
Because
The
it's key.
turn starts with an abnormal action. Sammy checking, having check raised the flop. Why is he doing this?
What's
going
happening?
on? He still has a
Sammy.
very valuable hand on this board, obviously. Of course, he can be beat. There are flushes in Tom's range that he would play this way. That doesn't mean that Sammy should slow down and not get more value out of maniacal Tom Dwan.
What is the point of check raising the flop if you're going to check when a blank turn comes? I don't understand it at all.
Right, a
Doesn't-
lot of Tom's hands have aces in them. Maybe
Yeah.
ace eight with an 8 of hearts or something like that, or even no heart, but an ace that Tom's not folding. Wouldn't you, as Sammy, want to get a ton of value out of those hands?
I mean, if we're not going to play it that way, why are we check raising the flop? Why not check call the flop then and stay in flow and let Tom just keep bluffing? But we
Right.
sort of like knock out most of Tom's bluffs when we check raise. So then now he's got some value, but it's very unlikely he's got better value than we have. And also because he's crazy Tom Dwan, we're talking about it being out in the flop and turn here, we just have to go with the hand, I think.
Right.
It's just too strong a hand against Tom Dwan, who absolutely is capable of bluffing on the turn.
At the same time, Tom has a lot of hands that are like King 10 with the King of Hearts, or even just the naked King of Hearts, that we really want to charge. And obviously, we're not going to get any value out of those on the river if we bet then. We can only get value out of those on the turn at the same time as charging Tom to realize his equity.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Sam, you just have to bet. If he raises you, you just gotta, I think you mostly have to suck it up and go with your hand
Just
anyway.
hold on, it's Tom Dwan,
Yeah,
he's
like,
crazy.
I mean, in theory, you're still really deep. You don't know he's gonna shove this much on the river yet. So I think you just bet and hold on. Mostly you're gonna bet. Now we know what Tom has. He's probably gonna fold. That's a perfectly fine outcome. There's a lot of really tough cards for Sammy otherwise. Every heart in the deck is a tough card. The 3 jacks that could come are tough cards for
Absolutely.
Sammy. Really, his hand loses massive value in both of those instances. So let's just bet, and it's fine to take the pot right now. And if Tom wants to call because he's got the King of Hearts or a combo draw, or wants to raise and get it in with us right now, I think we just got to suck it up and go with it.
All that said, Sammy hit it perfectly. He played the
Yeah.
turn absolutely perfectly, being completely results oriented. This was really the only way to get $48,000 more in the pot on this turn, by letting Tom Dwan do it himself.
The thing is, though, if you're going to do that, then when we check the river and Tom bets, we probably have to call, otherwise we lose that $48,000 rather than win it.
That is the magic of Tom Dwan. Sammy probably had that plan in mind on the turn. I'm going to check call the turn, I'm going to check call the river, or it's going to go check check and I'll probably win. And he's really hoping for a result like that. But then Tom throws a wrench in it. He bets so huge. Sammy's thinking, well, it's 162K. Maybe Tom will bet 115. Maybe he'll even bet pot. He's not going to go all in for more than twice the pot, right?
No one ever creates a plan. I think Sammy had that exact plan on the river, and it's a good plan on the river.
Yeah, it's a great plan.
I think he should have bet the turn, but the river he should be checking most of the time here to let Tom fire away with the King High Heart bluffs that he has in his hand, right? And you can't plan for Tom betting, what is it, 358,000?
358,000.
It's not even dollars, it's pounds. It's like $1.7 per pound at that point or something crazy. It's so much money.
Tom is betting a lot of money, and that gives Sammy pause. His plan goes out the window.
Yeah.
He starts thinking, I don't want to call. He's just going to turn over a flush, and I'm going to be an idiot. Why would I give away this money?
It's fair that it gives Sammy pause. It should give him pause. When someone bets 2 times the pot, you should really think about it.
It really should. And the thing about Tom Dwan that is really cool, beyond a lot of the other things he does when he's playing, is that when he bets this amount on the river in no limit, he generally is pretty balanced, whereas a lot of other pros are not balanced. They're always value side. Maybe not always, but 85%, 90%.
Huge percentage of the time, they have it. They have the nuts. They have a monster hand when people overbet the pot. But Tom Dwan's not that guy. On our podcast, I rattled off 3 instances of Tom overbetting the pot with it and 3 instances where he was bluffing. So he can have it either way. But when you look at the different kinds of combinations of hands that Tom can have here, his value versus his bluffs, he just has more bluffs than value. And because he's Tom Dwan and he's capable of really not having it, and as Sammy George, we've deeply underrepresented our hand by checking the turn. Now it looks like we have 1 pair. We don't really look like we have 2 pair ever.
No.
Right?
No.
So Tom may be just trying to get us off a weaker hand than he thinks we have. He may think we're more bluffable than we should be. That's a reason to call.
That is a reason to call, but also combinatorically, I want to expand upon what Jonathan was saying here. There's a lot more bluffs than there are value. If you look at what Tom's value is, and we have ace-6, by the way, so we're blocking a lot of Tom's value.
Yeah.
Let's assume Tom plays sets like this sometimes. So he has 1 combo of 6s, 1 combo of aces, and 3 combos of jacks. That is not a lot. He, of course, has all of the flushes, but that doesn't amount to anything near the amount of King of Hearts X hands that he could have.
I guess Tom could have ace-jack also, right?
He could have ace-jack.
That's another hand, but
So,
it's knocked down.
9 more combos. Actually, it's less than that.
Yeah,
because
we have an ace in our hand.
Yeah.
But still, ultimately, there's just so many more bluffs if we look at all of the combo draws, all of just the flush draws that miss, and some weird random things. Because the 7 deuce game is in play, at least once in a while, Tom can have maybe 1 or 2 combos.
Maybe
of
this
7
time.
deuce.
It might be this time.
Turns out he can have it this time. I don't think we should give him all the combos of 7 deuce because he did call a check raise on the flop. But it's at least possible he could have a 7 deuce.
Even if we give Tom King 10, Queen 10, and King Queen with 1 heart hands and only use those as his bluffs, that's still 48 combos.
Yeah.
That's a significant amount compared to his value.
Yeah, so you just gotta call here, even though it's brutal. And the feeling is, when you call these big bets against most players, you're beat, right?
Right.
And so you put the money in, you find out you're beat, and you sort of teach yourself not to make those calls, right?
And that is what Tom is preying upon here.
Yes.
The thing is, Sammy probably shouldn't call, even if it's a guy like Phil Ivey, who we've seen in the past on the breakdown is pretty unbalanced in these spots. So against Phil Ivey, this is a sensible fold.
Right.
Against Tom Dwan, I think it's a call just because he is so balanced in these spots.
This is one of those where you put a blindfold on, you throw the chips in, and you say, "Tell me, did I win or not? I don't want to know. Just I don't want to see it. Just tell me if I won or not."
Yeah.
That's it. Because you're basically guessing. But the pot is ultimately offering you a better price than 50%. You don't have to be right that often because you have the 358,000 Tom just threw in plus the money that's already in there, which is another $162,000. It's a good deal.
It's a really good deal. I mean, you have to be right, of course,
yeah,
enough of the time.
Like 40% though is all you need. So I think you're going to be good at more than 40%. Maybe not a lot more, but like 45, 50% of the time against Dwan here. And so you just have to make the call.
Just really sucks for Sammy that this is now his biggest poker legacy, and it's really only because the 7 deuce game was on.
Oh man, such a soul-destroying moment.
If you guys want to see Tom Dwan make magic out of nothing again, check out Tom Dwan's Miracle by clicking up there.
Yep, it's one of the all-time classic hands. You may remember it from High Stakes Poker. If not, definitely watch it. Even if you do, definitely watch it. It's good stuff.
Also do this.
Yep, give us a like.
With the thumb, the
Gotta
like.
give us a like.
That would be great.
Also check out our podcast and make sure you subscribe.
Last week we had a hand between 2 pillars of the game, Antonio Esfandiari and Doyle Brunson, in which they both made some pretty questionable decisions, especially on the river and especially Antonio, where Antonio check raised top set, where it seemed like he couldn't really get paid off by a worse hand too often, even though there was really only one type of hand that was going to be beating him. It was really likely that Doyle would have that if he had value.
That is correct. Doyle actually tweeted at us and agreed that he thought Antonio's raise was a little bit questionable, so that's kind of cool, right?
Yeah, the Godfather.
Yep.
He's our friend
Make
now.
you an offer. Right.
Don't do that.
I didn't do
No,
that.
you kind of did it.
Well, I did it.
Now everybody saw it.
I don't care.
It's embarrassing.
Let the people know.
Let's hear the comments.
Let's talk about our favorite comments, though, from y'all. All right. Jorn Van Loon said,
Okay.
Doyle is known for smooth calling pre-flop with big pairs. I feel that this side of Doyle's range is left out, and it might explain why the hand went the way it went.
That is a fair point about pre-flop, at least.
Right, pre-flop
He
it
is
is.
known for calling with big pairs pre-flop, like Antonio did in this exact hand, in fact.
Yeah.
Although Doyle seems like it would be a really bad play if he would 3-bet that on the flop. That seems like a really big mistake.
I agree. He normally wouldn't do it, but let's say, for the sake of argument, Doyle has kings here and he decides to 3-bet. He puts Antonio on 2 10s and he 3-bets.
For some reason, yeah. Let's
Because
say
he's the
that.
godfather of poker. He just like, I look at him, I know what he's got.
Yeah.
This is not how it works at all.
No.
We're just going to pretend.
We don't think Doyle would do this, but let's say he did.
Yeah, okay. Because, a lot of commenters said similar types of things.
Right.
Okay. On the river, if Antonio, because we're talking about what Antonio's check raising for, what the value of it is, right? So all those overpairs are all going to fold because there's an ace on the board.
Right.
So
Give
he can't
Doyle
even
kings.
consider it. Yeah.
Give Doyle kings. Say he'd 3-bet it for some reason on the flop.
He's
It
gonna
makes
check the
sense.
turn,
It makes
maybe.
sense that he would check the turn.
Sure.
But he would never call a check raise on the river.
He might bet the river, but he's never going to call the river once he gets check raised. We don't think. It
No.
seems so unlikely. It's just asking for so much. And that was the main criticism we had of Antonio's check raise here.
Right. Really, we thought the way the hand played out, Doyle could really mostly only have sets that Antonio was going to beat, but usually didn't even have those sets.
Right.
And combinatorically, even if Doyle had all of the flop sets, it's still less than the combos of 5-6 by a significant margin.
Doyle usually has Jack 9, 9 10, Jack 10, and 5 6. 3 of those types of hands fold when they get check raised, and the other one's got you crushed because it's the nuts.
Yep.
All right, let's go to another one here. Mark Gustafson says, is it possible that Antonio knew that Doyle would never call the pre-flop raise with 5 6, or are suited connectors too strong to fold pre-flop? I don't think Doyle's in this hand with 5 6 offsuit. So I think this changes the mathematics since there are only 4 suited 5 6 combos as opposed to the set 2 pair combos.
Well,
Nope.
No.
Sorry.
Sorry. He's calling with all 5/6s. Doyle is the effective stack in this three-way pre-flop hand where Ivy's got 1.1 million, Esfandiari's got 1.15 million, and Doyle's got like 680K. The big blind is $800. So he's got something like 800 big blinds. I don't think you could ever fold 5/6 in that spot. Your implied odds are magnificent, I think is the word for it.
That's sort of the word I was
Yeah.
going to use. Magnificent
Yeah.
for sure. Doyle is also closing the action. It'd be one thing if he wasn't closing the action. Then maybe we could say he's less likely to have 5/6 here. Someone else might be able to repop it. But he gets to end things. And so he's getting a great price as it is, but the implied odds, as Grant says, are astronomical.
Right, and if we're giving him, for example, let's say we give him only the 5/6 suited for some random reason.
I don't know why we do that,
Let's
but
say we're
okay.
doing that, and we get to the river, and Antonio's check raising. We can't give him all of the set combos anyway, so at best it's the same amount of combos. But still, he has the 5/6 offs anyway.
Yeah, he definitely is going to have the 5/6 offs here.
Yeah.